Assure our colleagues that I will depart with great hope for the endurance of the Senate.
Mitch McConnell knows a thing or two about endurance, the longest-serving Senate leader in the entire history of that legislative body. But even before McConnell announced his decision not to seek re-election, something that everyone here in Washington has long been expecting, as you might imagine, a field of potential replacements were already grappling for the earliest advantage. So to talk about that, I want to bring in Semafor's Kadia Goba, political reporter for Semafor. So let's run through three names for our audience. I'll give them to you, and you can walk us through.
Sure.
Andy Barr, Daniel Cameron, Nate Morris.
Yeah, so Andy Barr is a representative from Kentucky. He is on the Financial Services Committee. He was probably one of the first to kind of allude that he was going to be running about a week and a half ago. Then you have Daniel Cameron, who many say is an ally of the former,
Mitch
Senator
McConnell,
Mitch
right.
McConnell. He was the former state attorney general, but did lose a governor's race recently.
Right, to Andy Beshear, right.
That's right. So that's kind of a sticking point for him. And then we have this outsider, Nate Morris, who seems to be talking to people in the MAGA world, which is, I think, is quite interesting. He's sort of an outsider, and I was talking to a colleague of mine who said, you know, outsiders are sort of in style right now. If you look at Donald Trump, he's an outsider.
Business guy looking for the MAGA lane, but maybe has some business issues that might become topical in a primary.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a tough race. It's going to be this outsider guy against what we presume these two very much established lawmakers who know the game, who understand how this works, who have been, I'm sure, cleaning everything for the past year and a half or so they can get
ready
prepared.
For this.
Yeah, that's right.
I mentioned before we went to break that you've got some reporting on House Republicans. All this week we've been focused on lots of other things, not House Republicans, but they're going through a lot of legislative preparations to move the Trump tax cuts and other issues. Where are they?
Well, away in their districts right now,
right.
But they will be back next week, and after the president gave them essentially an endorsement over this one big bill, it seems that they are also going to put their version of what the Senate is trying to pass right now on the floor, and that's a reconciliation bill that will pass the filibuster in the Senate. So Congress is sort of at an impasse. The Senate wants two bills.
Right.
The House wants to
Senate is starting first on something much smaller, much more focused on defense and immigration.
And immigration, that's right.
The House alternative is the whole thing.
Well, they want taxes.
They want the whole thing.
Their issue is they feel like if they get this one bill across, with just border and defense, there's not going to be room for taxes because they have some pretty strong fiscal hawks in their conference that they're just like, where are you going to get the money from to pay for these tax cuts? But the implications for people on the ground, if they don't get this passed, everyone's going to have a tax.
So a high-pressure week next week when House Republicans return.
I would say so.
What about this nominee from the Trump White House for Labor Secretary? You've got some interesting reporting and analysis on that.
Yeah, Lori Chavez-DeRima. She
member
is
of Congress,
a former member of Congress who just lost her race by a Democrat. The seat was flipped. She is, she's one of the rare members that voted for the PRO Act, which makes it easier.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's right. A rare Republican that voted for the PRO Act, which makes it easier for unions on the federal level. No one anticipates that she is not going to, pass muster. She will be confirmed. I think the more controversial people have already passed, like Patel and Tulsi Gabbard. I don't think anybody has a problem with her. And Democrats, she might actually get some Democratic support as well.
And the interesting thing about her is that because she's in favor of this PRO Act, which is sympathetic toward labor union and labor union mobilization, some Republicans might look at her askance, but that's not going to block her confirmation.
I would say it's sort of a pivot for the Republican Party as they try to capture the working class voter.
She might be an exemplar of that.
That's right.
Kadia Goba, Semafor, political reporter, thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.